Is this a capitalist buyout of the democratic state? Rich person, yeah, obviously tries to be richer. Or why is he listened to as much? Is he listened to because he's rich? I don't know. He's got this asymmetric connect. And the way that he connects things, you will not be drawn back to do reparations. Looking at the world, just like everybody else is looking from their corners, right? And finally, democracy being sold out or being bought by the rich, bought by big money, is just. Welcome to the South of Cosmos. In today's episode, we'll look at the impact of Elon Musk's personality and the future of American politics. So the question that we have in front of us is this: Elon Musk teaming up with Donald Trump. Is this a capitalist buyout of the democratic state? Is it so? And it does seem so. When you first look at it, it immediately seems like, oh wow, Donald Trump, rich guy, kind of eccentric, and took a leap into politics. Wanting to stretch out into politics was bad enough for many of us, or at least for some of us. And now you have Elon Musk, who's the richest person on earth right now, teaming up with him. And the results have shown what all of us saw. So what do we make of it immediately? Should we believe them? Or is it a case of big money buying out the democratic state? What we can look at are the narratives regarding wealth and the wealthy. So I'm sure that all of you agree that popular media is replete with images of the rich bad guy. The most popular medium out there, movies, are very famous for having rich guys or the elites as the villains who try to kind of conquer the world and run a world government, maybe even an interplanetary government, and want to rule the world, basically. So that's a very popular narrative. All of us know that. So the vilification of the capitalist has a strong ideological roots in a leftist view of the world. And this has become so popular that being wealthy carries an amount of sin in itself. I have a rebellious past that was fueled mostly by Marxian ideology, and which obviously posited the imperialists, the capitalists on the other side. So I'm really familiar with it, and I was party to this for a long time. And so I do understand the apprehension, the fear of the media or the population of the class of people who feel that, okay, the rich guys, they come with an agenda full of themselves. And the rich too tend to feel guilty for their richness. Yep. So I think I can give an example. Through an example, I can show you how being rich becomes a little distasteful or not the best presentation in people's mind, in the popular narrative. For example, if I were to present myself and say, you know what, I come from a real poor background, how does it sink into your mind, into your hearts? Or I come from a middle class background. The belief was that if you present yourself like that, you already are part of the struggle of the majority of the population. Versus somebody who says that I come from a rich background, that immediately makes him half a human being. And the person has not struggled. The person wouldn't understand our struggles, the majority struggles. That's the feeling that we get immediately. So being rich carries an amount of guilt along with it. And I think that I would say the majority of the media majority is happy to present or carry on with the same narrative. They know that they just have to tell that this is a rich guy, and immediately they know that they have a population out there who would immediately believe that, okay, there's something wrong with the guy. I mean, the popular narrative against the rich is so very strong that good intentions are not attributed, or you don't feel like attributing good intentions to the rich. Rich person, yeah, obviously tries to be richer, but being rich and being moral and ethical is not an immediate understanding of the mass. People find it But if you were to say that I come from a middle class family, you're almost seen like somebody who understands and empathizes with you, and that is enough for you to kind of join hands with that person. But if somebody is super rich and comes on to say that I have good intentions, I intend to do things like this, you doubt the person's intentions because the person's rich, right? You don't want to believe him or her. I believe that with somebody like Trump or Elon Musk, who has had a very privileged younger with life upbringing, and even Elon Musk, who he did have sufficient financial support. So I believe that if you are in a position like that, the targets that you give yourself and you look out for humanity tend to be overreaching, or tend to be really high, and that in a way helps the whole of humanity. You take the whole crowd along with you. You don't look at your challenges and step back to kind of muster support and make sure that everybody feels good. You don't look at that. I believe that this is very similar to the way that, or maybe connects to the way that Ayn Rand might have seen as the individual's contribution. And Elon Musk is again somebody who has changed the world's image about billionaires. But here we have somebody like Elon Musk, who has had an entrepreneurial streak that is unmatched in history as far as we know, and has been breaking barriers in every field that he has stepped in, and look at the companies that he has created and successfully kind of run into the market. Look at the companies, starting with PayPal, Zip2, Tesla, and not just EVs, automated, driverless cars. Look at his innovations. EVs, making the world's most popular EVs first, making driverless cars the norm, being the first company to launch shuttles first private company to launch shuttles into space, getting order from NASA nowadays, being the first company to create reusable vehicles for space travel, being the first company to attempt colonizing Mars, Hyperloop, thinking about travel on Earth, land travel at the speed of way beyond supersonic speeds. What about Neuralink, trying to kind of embed chips into the human brain so that you just become superhuman, as in you avoid and overcome challenges that are human. And Starlink, connecting the whole world through internet without cables, through satellites. Right. So his innovations are enough testimony to the genius of the person, real genius of the person. And there are comparisons to Einstein and Edison, but there are very acceptable opinions of him that say that he's probably more than any of them. Is that all? There's more to it. Now, he's somebody who's known to be frugal as in dead frugal. That's frugal to the point where millionaires and billionaires would be uneasy and unhappy with the way that he carries himself. Yeah, of course, we have Warren Buffett, who was also pretty famous for his frugal lifestyle. But here we have a youngish person, and Elon Musk. He lives in his $50,000 house, and he's known as the hardest working person in the world, and I think that's a title that's worth having. So, anyways, very frugal living, and there are a lot of anecdotes from his life about how he has had the situation. He used to sleep in his office during the initial Tesla days, and work along with his workers. What his cabin was in the middle of the assembly line, production, the shop floor. So that is somebody that is worth watching and listening to. Or why is he listened to as much? Is he listened to because he's rich? I really don't think so. that will be a total misrepresentation of facts, because nobody listens to somebody just because the person is rich. Like Bill Gates goes around the whole world talking about a lot of stuff. Who listens to Bill Gates nowadays? Does anybody listen to him? Now, Elon Musk is famous, or people listen to Elon Musk because he has he has a history of having an intellectual stake in the way that the world is evolving. What am I talking about here? I mean to say that he tries to understand the depth, in depth, of every single thing that he comes across. So there is a guy, and there's a guy who's changed the image about billionaires, not just because of innovations and the continuing streak of innovations, but the amount of intellectual investment that he has in all of his ventures. Not just his ventures, even with anything that he's getting into, he tries to get the best, tries to get the deepest understanding about it, and connects the dots that we are unable to see. You try to read and try to understand something, we have maybe a linear progression that we have. But I don't know, he's got this asymmetric connect. And the way that he connects things, as and when he says it, it becomes obvious to you. All right, yeah, that's there. Yeah, that's right. And but if it was given to you, I'm sure that we wouldn't be able to guess or trace it the same way. It's a pleasure listening to him when he talks about technology. I remember sitting and watching some of his interviews about SpaceX, and there's this channel called Everyday Astronaut. Yeah, Everyday Astronaut, I guess. And they have continuous interactions before the launch, during the launch, for the next project. And it's a pleasure listening to him. But again, 90% of that goes over my head. But it's a real pleasure to see. You have these blips in the radar. Suddenly when he connects it, and you try to kind of follow his thought, and sometimes he pauses, and you try to guess, what is he trying to kind of connect next? And then he comes out with something else. And every time we are able to connect, our synapses connect, at least with me, I'm like, oh wow, I feel good about myself. I feel proud that I'm able to listen to or follow his talk, at least to that extent. So that's the kind of person that is. Let me come back to this narrative about the rich bad guy. I think that the world has come out of it. I think we're done with it. I think the world has come to realize that good intentions can come from any place. And if it comes from a place where you are sufficiently endowed and you're supported well, the positive side to it is that, you will not be drawn back to do reparations. You don't have to look at reparations, and you don't have to feel guilty, because you're coming from a place of power to the point where nothing's holding you back. You can always look far ahead. So, like in the previous video, I do feel pretty encouraged to support the way that things are turning out in the US. Not that my support means anything, because I'm sitting over here in southern corner of India, and looking at the world just like everybody else is looking from their corners, right? So, but I feel it's a good thing that's happening right now. And this talk about Elon Musk teaming up with Trump, who's also another super rich guy, and finally democracy being sold out or being bought by the rich, bought by big money, is just bull.